Hello, it's Mike with HPDS. I'm going to go ahead and say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May your kingdom come and may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread and forgive us of our debt as we forgive those in debt to us. And Lord, lead us not into temptation, but rather deliver us from the evil one. Amen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of introduction. I'm going to be going over Genesis. I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody I use the King James Version of the Bible. See if you can see that. I like King James Version. Not just because it's in the open domain, so it's free to use. I don't have to worry about copyright issues because you have to keep in mind there are certain Bibles, such as the NIV in particular, but there's others as well that are a little bit sketchy on their copyright. Copyright. So you got to keep that in mind that in this day and age there are copyright issues. For some reason, there's legal cases, legal documents, and granted, with the Bible, most of these guys are probably really lax with their copyright issues, but who knows? I don't want to be doing an entire Bible study in the NIV Bible using some of these NIV Bible studies because that would probably be a huge violation of their copyright laws. And so I'm not going to do that, but King James Version is really nice. And that being said, I will occasionally pull through some other versions, like, for example, this one's the New Living Translation. And I do have an NIV, and then I think I got this one, which is the English Standard Version. And I know I have a different one too, which is a revised English version or something. And then on top of that, I have built an application, and you could go ahead and take a look at this here, my HPDS Bible, which I got other versions that are also open domain that I can use easily, such as the American King James Version, the American Standard Version, the Darby Bible, Dewey Rames, English Revised Version, Webster Bible, World English, and Young's Literal Translation. These are all Bible versions that I have access to and that I will occasionally perhaps jump through when we're getting into debt in what is being said here in the Bible. But for the most part, it will be King James Version. I will read through the King James Version. It will be the standard, and I will tell you why. Because first off, it was created and it was translated from the original languages into English by a king. A king. A king. You see what I'm saying? A king. That's a king that has importance. So God establishes all nations and all leaders, and he established the Gentiles, which we would be considered as the United States of America. He established us all, and he established every king. So King James is a historical king of England, and England has a huge historical background. America has a huge historical background in England, and England had sent a bunch of people historically to America, and a lot of people in today's America owe their descent to England. And King James was a king, and he did this back in the 1600s. And a lot of people want to say, "Oh, the Bible is controlled or written by man," and blah blah blah. But they forget that means they don't give enough power to God and how much power God actually controls in our life, and they think they're actually separate from God. And so people who think like that don't realize that God ordained these kings in their times, and they themselves will be held accountable in the end, and everybody will know everything about the kings. We're going to know if King James was a righteous man behind closed doors. I mean, honestly, we don't know. We can only go through our own historical records and gather what kind of a person he was, and I won't really do that right now. But as a king, this is the standard Bible, and all Bibles should strive to be like this. And they shouldn't stray very far from the interpretation of this Bible, because God put it into a king. So now, unless, of course, say, for example, Donald Trump is our president right now, say he commissioned a brand new interpretation of the Bible from the original language into current English, and it was given the approval and commission of, say, a president of the United States. In this day and age, I mean, I've seen Donald Trump pray, and he's prayed to God, and I know there was some issues with the faith concerning Obama and how he may have been, well, you can go take a look at the news and see what people think of him. But I mean, if you watch what's going on in today's politics in the United States, we have to look at the signs of the times, people. Jesus Christ himself said, you guys know when it's gonna rain, you look up at the sky and you know it's gonna rain, but you can't look at the signs of the times. So we gotta pay attention to the signs of the times too. And like I said, so, King James is a king. He did that. All these other people that make their versions, they're all just, organizations, and they have their own authority. And sure, they may all be good at, they may all be righteous in their own right, but none of them were kings, ordained by the Lord. These are just organizations that have popped up through time. And so, like I said, if a president commissioned a new version, that'd be interesting, and that would probably take more precedence than the King James version. But until a local authority, my own government, makes its own interpretation, the King James version is the most respected version, legally speaking. And so, never mind, linguistically, there's the these and thous and so forth, and the shouldest, the est at the end of words, maketh. But once you, for me, it's something that should be understood, and it is something that has been throughout our history. That is our language. I speak English. My parents actually spoke Spanish and English. And so did my grandparents. They spoke more Spanish than they did English. But so it is something that my ancestry does speak Spanish, and we have switched from Spanish to English. I myself do not really speak much Spanish. I don't quite understand it very often. I can read it for some reason. I have much better chance reading it than I do listening to it and speaking it. But I speak English, and therefore that is my language. And I also, of course, I have other languages, such as programming languages, but that's codes that I write in. So I know how to write in different languages, but it's all English. A lot of time it's got a basis in English, but never mind. I go back into that, just saying that linguistically, I don't have a problem with it because it's historical, and people have always spoken like this, and people will always continue to speak in different dialects until the end comes, until all things pass away, and we're all in the resurrection bodies and so forth, and going into judgment in heaven. But until then, people speak in different dialects, and as a person that is set forth to go out into the world and preach the word, I find that God has put me into the English-speaking world and has taught me that English in itself is, at this point in history, so large and it's spoken by so many people in so many countries and so many uh, different foreign tongues mixed around it, that English itself is many different languages. You've got different people in different parts of the United States, for example, that you want to say the black culture, the Hispanic culture. There's people that call pizzas and they call them pies, and there's people that call cokes, sodas, they call them cokes or Pepsi. I mean, that's an accident, that's a slip, but they call them pops, or they call things all kinds of different words, and they have different phrases, and then you've got people speaking uh, in so many different kinds of now emojis and little um, acronyms and everything. So you gotta understand that in order to reach the world, even in the United States of America speaking English, you got to understand that people are saying a bunch of weird different things using the same different words, and they don't necessarily always mean the same thing. And this is that Tower of Babel. This is how easily it happened back in, we'll read in Genesis 11 when we read about the Tower of Babel, that is a perfect example of what's happening. That is how the Tower of Babel could be considered, not even just because it was a real tower, but it also had a lot of spiritual implications when God split our languages so that people didn't understand each other anymore. And that is what is happening in the United States of America. If you notice, people are saying words that mean completely different things in in different contexts. So when you take it into the context that they're saying it, it's crazy sometimes, or it's different, or it's people are calling it's I could go into it, but I won't right now. I'll actually reserve that for a different channel. So that is why I'm going back to, that's King James Version. King James Version, bam, it's my favorite. That's the one I'm going to use. And I guess this is going to be just a defense of the King James Version. Overall, that is what this video is. It's a defense of the King James Version, even though I will use other versions. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, and I'm gonna get started in Genesis in my very next video. I'm gonna jump right into Genesis 1, and I'm gonna read Genesis 1 and so forth. So God bless everybody. May we all bless Jesus Christ, and may He bless all of us. Amen.